What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Second Street Marvel. I am your host, Trinity. Thank you all so much for tuning in for yet another edition of the Morning Movie Chat. Again, if this is your first time here, please make sure you subscribe, click the little bell, and just all that good stuff out there that they tell me to tell you to do. Because you know what? Sometimes we forget. Admittedly, we do. So anyway, guys, it's Monday morning. Here we go, man. Ready to start another week. I know like this week particular, my kids are out of school, which to me this is completely foreign. When I was growing up, we had to go to school. I think when I was going to school, like for Thanksgiving, we may have got like Thursday off and Friday, but we were there on Wednesday. Oh yeah, we were there on Wednesday, and we were back to school on Monday. And man, my kids, man, they got off Monday through Friday. They got a whole week off. I'm not sure what's going on in this crazy bonkers world out there where people, just think that it's okay for your kids to not be in school when they should be in school. Well, then again, I guess my kids go to public school, so I guess maybe that's not necessarily the best thing. Maybe the school actually has their best interests at heart. But I'm not really here to get into any of that today. I'm not here to get into the schooling system or anything like that. But I do think that is just come on, guys. It's at least a little bit funny. I see we got Rosetta Allen. Good morning. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. I just seen a tweet from you earlier about some complications you're going through. I hope everything's going well, Rosetta. I hope you're doing better. And if not, rest, do whatever it is you need to do to get better. And I think that's something that we all need to do anyway. Sometimes it seems like so many of us just like it's really hard to say like push ourselves for more than we need to. And the thing is somebody could easily make could easily go out there and say, oh well, back in the day before technology and all this stuff, we got first world problems and all this kinds of stuff. Well, the thing is like back in the day, in caveman days or even earlier days, is people weren't as stressed when it comes to things. Our lives were different back in those days. So there's a lot that could be said about anything. Just like you see all of those, those things out there where people say, back when I was growing up, we didn't wear helmets and the streetlights came on, and just all this kinds of crap. Well, or people use this thing like, hey, I was spanked when I was a kid and I'm okay. For one, you're not okay. But two, things are just different now. Our society is different and things like that. And that's something I'm kind of going to go ahead and get into today. Tommy, good morning. How are you doing this morning? He says, morning, I have some free time. Wife took father out for a while. Awesome, awesome. Your wife and your father spending some time together. I'm sure she enjoys that. I'm sure she enjoys you dumping your father off on her like that. Yeah, I'm sure she does. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. She probably does. She probably if your father is anything like my mother is with my wife and everything, I'm sure they probably actually enjoyed the time together because my mother and my wife they get along really good. I don't know. Maybe I just picked the right woman. I think that's what it is, or I guess more like she picked me. I guess you could say. So yeah, that's awesome, awesome. Rosetta Allen says hugs, not yet. We'll take a while, rough time, but streams help because I am not as bored on bed rest now. Back in the day, I would have died 6 years ago when this issue hit me the first time. I think there are good things to celebrate of the past and negatives. I won't go into spanking. Yeah, I know, right? Like, if we go into spankings, like the whole spanking and everything like that, I mean, this video will get ratioed to hell. For some reason, spanking is just one of those issues, man, that people just they get nuts about. You know what I mean? Like people fly off the handle when you start talking about spanking your children and stuff like that. And I get it, because I have my ways. I have my ways that I feel about it. Like my children have never been spanked, but again, of course, they've never been spanked because they've never been in a position where I've had to spank them. And that's not to say I haven't ever disciplined them, but I just haven't had to resort to spankings. Now, you know what? I guess I'm fibbing here. I've spanked my son. I spanked my son, but it was over something that he was old enough to understand that he was doing wrong, and I had told him over, and I'm like, hey dude, just like calm down. And I know he understands, and I know he understood when I spanked him that it wasn't I don't know, like spanking can have detrimental effects overall for the most part, in some aspects. But again, I think there's just so many blurred lines there when it comes to it. I just don't find it necessary. Some parents do, and hey, that's just the way the world is. But go ahead and getting into today's subject, guys, and maybe spanking kind of goes along with that. In case you guys didn't see the title here, we're going to be talking about Frozen 2, COPPA, and how this very well might be my last video ever. Guys, a sad day has come over YouTube. People are going to be boycotting YouTube tomorrow. They're going to be doing this no upload Tuesday thing, thinking that YouTube's going to care, thinking that the FTC is going to care, thinking that anybody's going to care. So, they're not going to upload and stuff. And you know what? Honestly, a lot of people don't always upload on Tuesdays. A lot of people don't do things on Tuesdays. Not every channel uploads content every day. So, hey, like, they may not even notice. They may not even notice. But, hey, that's all good. Like, whenever you have a cause or something that you believe in, you got to stand behind it. You know what I mean? Stand behind it. And the thing is don't feel like you're tied to that cause neither. Just because maybe you had some misinformation, you're like, oh man, well I thought this was one thing. I don't be afraid to shift your stance on something neither. You know what I mean? Like, because maybe you got some misinformation or anything like that. It just happens. So always keep yourself open to the options that are available to you out there, and that goes with just about anything. You know what I mean? He just says, not the last video thing. Yikes. And that's the funny thing is, like, ever since these whole things have come out, there's this whole doomsday prophecy going on out there about with just like channels and COPPA and commercial and channels being commercially viable because the new terms of service out there being put forth by YouTube that are going to go into effect December 10th, and like we should all oh my God, the sky is falling. Guys, don't worry. Everything's going to be okay. Just continue making the content you make. The thing is like, a lot of people don't read and comprehend things very well. And I'm not here to insult anybody, but it's true. It's true. I mean, I've seen so many people, you guys have been on Twitter, Facebook, any of those kinds of things, and see people have misunderstandings over just the way something's typed, the way something's worded, and things like that. And again, that comes down to reading and comprehension. And I'm not here to insult anybody, but from what I've noticed in this world, a lot of people's reading and comprehension skills, they're just not that good. I'm not saying that people are stupid, but people are stupid. Okay, that's really what it comes down to. The thing is like being commercially viable and your channel getting deleted. Like, look, I wouldn't, as any content creator, I wouldn't be that worried about it. For the one thing is like, is your content commercially viable? Like, if you had a channel where you're doing a bunch of that sub for sub stuff, you're not growing in subscribers, nobody's watching your videos, anything like that, maybe then I'd be a little worried if you're one of those creators. But for the most part, I think a lot of creators out there, especially when they're new, are gaining that audience. They're gaining traction and things like that to kind of to become commercially viable. Because I mean, unless you have a big influence going into this thing, you don't nobody would be commercially viable then. Nobody would be commercially viable because you don't have the influence and things like that. To me, I think it's like, as long as you're not stagnant, as long as you're making progress, people are starting to discover your videos, you're doing things to be commercially viable, then you'll be all good. It's like I said, if you're one of those channels that just isn't gaining subscribers, isn't getting views, isn't anything like that, isn't helping YouTube in any sort of way, then maybe you might need to worry. But again, I haven't read the terms of service myself, but just from not all of them, just from what I have read, guys, most people don't really have anything to worry about. Now, the next thing comes to this whole COPPA thing. COPPA. Can I COPPA? I don't know. I can't even think of anything with COPPA. How about COPPA grip or get a grip? Damn, man, what's wrong with people in this whole COPPA thing? Everybody seems to be so scared by these things out there affecting channels, and it's doomsday. It's doomsday for everybody. So that's why I'm making this video, because I figured Since everybody's on the whole, this is my COPPA video, COPPA explained. I'm quitting because of COPPA. You know what, guys? I'm sorry. I clickbaited you guys. I know, I know. I've always told you guys, I'm making myself a lie here, that I would never be with that clickbait artist guy. That clickbait artist guy who's gonna clickbait you into a video talking about a whole bunch of preposterous things. But at some point, we all got to give into it, folks. And this is my clickbait video. COPPA, COPPA, COPPA feel, with consent, of course, with with you, like your wife or something. That, yeah. Gosh, man. See, I'm already failing at this whole COPPA thing, guys. This stuff, there's so much to be said about what's going on with the whole COPPA thing. And again, I don't think that it's anything that anybody has to necessarily worry about. Really, what it is just from everything I've taken in, and I could be 100% wrong here. I'm not a lawyer and all that disclaimer stuff that people throw out there when they're talking about this thing. For me, the thing is are you, it comes down to, are you purposely misleading somebody to watching your videos? That's ultimately what it comes down to. Now, sure, there might be somebody out there that's going to watch your video and be like, oh, this is for kids and this is attractive to kids and these kinds of things. That could very well may be true. I mean, I make videos talking about comic books, but you know what, like, largely comic books aren't necessarily for kids. Now, there are some comic books that are for kids. There are some that are kid centric, you could get your kid into, but largely, for me, it's not even about that. I mean, really, what this seems to has to do with is more for like advertisers, and that's really who's going to affect is more kids channels. Now, there are channels like mine who will probably be affected. Hell, even mine might be affected, and I could be completely wrong, and maybe I should be, screaming from the top of my lungs, F COPPA, F YouTube, and all this stuff too. I just don't. Coppa Cabana. The Coppa Cabana. That's hilarious. Maverick Pilgrim. Oh, that's funny, dude. These COPPA rules is going to move content creators to other platforms. Yeah, and there's other creators who do on multiple platforms anyway. I myself, I've been doing YouTube for, getting ready to go on a year now. I'm not that worried about it, but, I've kind of thought about that too, other platforms, other avenues in which to upload my content. So occasionally I upload some of them to Facebook and things like that, but I don't know how all of that works. And again, I'm not really, I didn't start YouTube just like overall the money or anything like that. I started it to, just to share the things that I love. And slowly over time, I have gained some supporters who wish to support me in the channel monetarily. So I have a Patreon and things like that. And thank you so much to all of those people who do donate to the to just to the channel. I do greatly appreciate all of those people who are Patreon supporters. Toss me a few bucks. Hey, it's all good. I'm not here on YouTube to get rich. I have a job. I have a business. I got stuff that I do personally for money. So it's not the end of the world. But the thing is most of all, I mean, I just want to continue making content for you. I enjoy touching base with you all, interacting with everybody, hearing you guys' comments and different things like that. It's always fun. Like I said, YouTube to me, it's just a fun thing, and to me, it's not the end of the world. But yeah, I don't know. Like there's this whole there's a lot of people out there, on YouTube. We already know people do things out there to get clicks, to get traffic to their site. Clickbaiting, if you will. And like I said, I've talked about this a lot of times here on the channel before. There's nothing wrong with clickbait. At some point, as a content creator, you got to give into that. You got to get people to click on your videos, whether that's a provocative thumbnail or title. You have to get people to click your videos. And to me, I think a lot of these things are doomsday sayers, like, hey, come watch my COPPA video, only so I can plug, this or that, my merchandise or my Patreon and stuff like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. We got Patreons, we make merchandise for reasons to make money. I'm not knocking that. But what I'm saying is some people are using this thing as a way just to get extra views, get extra watch time and stuff like that. Even big channels, and hey, man, you do what you got to do. I'm not knocking that. But what I'm saying is there are a lot of channels out there making this thing out into something that I don't believe that it actually is, making it a bigger deal than it is, hence the sky is falling. Ah! But again, I think there's just a whole lot of misunderstandings coming from this. Again, it comes down to reading and comprehension, people. Not a whole lot of people are good at that, especially when you're going and reading like these terms of service, these new YouTube terms of service, or even these rules for COPPA and things like that. Because most of it is in lawyer speak. You know what I mean? Like we don't know that crap, and they always word these things to some sort of way where it's always open to translation. So that ultimately means that what we think is probably like what the truth is probably here, and what we think is probably over here, over here, over here. It's somewhere outlying that really has nothing to do with it, because that's why they word things this way. It's absolutely crazy. It's bonkers to me. But altogether, guys, like I think for the most part, it's the people are going to be affected who are the people who are out there purposely misleading their content, misrepresenting their content. Like, they say, like if it's attractive to kids and stuff like that, you could be misrepresenting it. I'm not misrepresenting it. I mean, people may take it as something else, but for the most part, like unless you're doing something adult in your videos and they think it might be children related, I mean, I think you're going to be okay. If you're like, see, I got all the posters in my background here that might be attractive to children. For the most part in my videos, I don't do anything that is that I don't feel, except for like the Trailer Park Live, I don't really talk a lot about a whole things that wouldn't be appropriate for a child. And again, they're saying that children are 13 and under. Okay, 13 and under. I think for the most part, most of my audience, just according to my analytics, and of course kids use their parents' profiles and stuff, most of my viewers are over the year 18 years of age. And again, that doesn't matter really according to this COPPA stuff, because it could be misrepresented. People could still assume it, it's attractive to kids and all of those kinds of things. But for the most part, I think most of my content here on the channel, even when I'm discussing things, except for the Trailer Park Live, is pretty child friendly. Like I try not to curse a whole lot or anything like that. I'm not showing nudity. I'm not being grotesque or anything like that. And again, that honestly, that could be something that goes against me as well. They can be like, well, you're being a decent person here. You're not cursing anything, and that's good for kids. And you're talking about comic books. Guys, just everybody, like really just take a step back, just breathe. Let's just go through this. I mean, if I'm sure if you have one of those videos out there that the FTC comes down on, they might look at you, and you can always fight it. I mean, you can go to law, go to court and be like, hey guys, like I just make videos, like I and sure, they might still slap you with a fine. I could be very wrong here. But I think for the most part, when you go to a court, if you have a good judge, they're going to be understanding and hear you out. If you say like, hey man, like I just talk about comic books. It's not for kids. Kids watch it. I can't help that. Like, and that's the thing, is ultimately this whole thing is like this government thing. Like you can't count on other people to monitor your kids for you. You need to be responsible for yourself and for your children, especially your children if they are online. Now, of course, that's passing the buck on to parents, right? Because YouTube and the FTC, they need to be monitoring your kids for you, right? Ah. Anyway, that's really enough about that. I mean, like I said, guys, I put that stuff there in the thing. This might be my last video. Oh. It's not gonna be my last video. It's just a whole bunch of silliness going on out there in the world, guys. I'm not gonna make anything big of it until we start to see channels drop and everything. All this stuff kicks in. Now, of course, everyone would say, "Oh, but it's too late by then. Then you're in trouble." Guys, come on, man. Like I think for the most part, most people are understanding about things. I think even when you go to court, they're understanding. Hell, I've been to court many a times and seen people, that probably deserve to have the book thrown at them, and the judge is like, oh, okay, like it's all good. And by the book, I mean like some of the fines, ridiculous fines and stuff like that, where the judge is cool. Like I said, it all comes down to who you're talking to and exactly what the problem is. I don't think they're just going to slap fines on people for something that maybe not that you weren't not aware of, because ignorance is no excuse, but maybe think just because something got misrepresented. Again, people are making mountains out of molehills or anthills or whatever hills they are. People are just making mountains out of these little things. That's what it has to do with. Anyway, let's see. Who else we got here? We got Mads Mama Bear, Maverick Pilgrim. Thank you all so much for being here. Stu Jersey X. Thank you so much for being here. Coffee Breath. Hey man, I'm getting my coffee breath on too, man. Let's see. Aggressively relaxing. Thank you for being here. He says, I'm about to take Take about to take Venmo and Daily Motion over. Yes, awesome. I think that's Vimeo. Is it Vimeo? I don't know. I don't really watch any of those other things. Rosetta Allen says, I think there is a fine line between eye-catching titles and truly misleading clickbait. Yeah, and well, and to me, like like clickbait isn't a bad thing. It's that bad clickbait out there when you put a provocative headline out there or thumbnail and you don't talk about what's in that headline or thumbnail. To me, that's when people start getting. To me, that's when people start getting a little upset about some of that stuff. But Maverick Pilgrim says, "Can you make Copacabana T-shirts?" Yes, I'll make a Copacabana Second Street Marvel T-shirts. Oh man, that's funny. Um, Rosetta Allen says the problem is they list anything that has any versions that kids like as kids content, including art. It's not trustworthy, and I am tired of the lazy parents. Yeah, and again, I mean, to me, that's what it is. I mean, we don't want more government intervention in anything. That's a bad thing. That's ultimately a bad thing. More government intervention is like kind of goes against the one thing that everybody wants more of, right? Freedom. Right, that's ultimately what it is. I mean, I'm not here to get into politics or anything, but freedom isn't just a state of mind. Okay, this isn't freedom isn't the Phantom Menace. The Phantom Menace is a state of mind. Freedom is not a state of mind. Freedom, while it can be a state of mind, freedom is ultimately what things that we are free to do. Now, of course, these days freedoms would be tied more down to privileges, things that we are privileged to do, because ultimately we are not free, and there's nothing wrong with that, because there are some people out there who need some sort of authority figure out there to slap them on the hand when they're doing something wrong. Admittedly, people need that. I don't, but there's plenty of people out there who do. So anyway, go ahead and we're gonna go ahead and get into some movie talk here. Now that I'm over my COPPA, and this might be my last video rant, because guys, you need to support me. This might be my last video. But anyway, guys, so today I want to talk a little bit more about Frozen 2. Now I haven't done my review on Frozen 2 yet, but I did go out and see it a second time yesterday with my wife and the kids. Like, I went on Thursday, I took the kids. My wife was at work; she works evenings. And yesterday we went out, took the wife with the kids. We went out and seen it once again. And I've got to say, guys, I think I like the movie better on second viewing. Now, is this movie ever going to match what the first Frozen was? Absolutely not. For one, we all know that sequels tend to not be as good, and this one, I actually think it's pretty. I actually think it's pretty good. Then we could always make the arguments like, "Oh, sequels aren't necessary." All this and all that gobbledygook. Out there, and really, no sequel is necessary. But this one, I think, it didn't seem like they were trying to. It didn't seem like they were trying to match what they did in the first one. The one thing I will say, that the one thing I definitely like about this new Frozen 2 is, the one thing I was noticing is, the music isn't as quite there. It's not as big and grandiose. It's not as catchy or anything like that as what we got in the first one. Again, I have a lot of emotional attachments to the first ones. I'm emotionally invested there. My daughters were like 2, 3, 4 years of age when that movie came out. So they were little at a time. They were cute at a time when this movie came out. We spent a lot of time singing those songs together, acting the movie out, and all those kinds of things. But not only that, my attachment to that, but the movie itself is just good. The songs in it are good. I'm one of those parents, I never really got tired of hearing those songs. I think they're great songs. It's really well done. Um, and this one, like I said, Frozen 2 to me is the next step in Frozen, because to me, what it seems like, it's not a sequel just to be a sequel. Now, there are some things in there that are somewhat like that, but for me, the one thing I think that Frozen 2 done was, it matured with its audience. You know what I mean? It matured with its audience. We see Elsa and Anna have grown up through a handful of years, just the same way that the audience that it originally resonated with has. And I feel that that's one of the strengths of this movie, is it takes that maturity to a new level. From where it was, because they were for one, the girls were young and naive in the first movie. In the second movie, we can see that they've grown up. They're more out there in the world. Arendelle has changed, and we see a lot of that just going on at the beginning of this film, where the city is, they're all together, they're having a good time. Things have moved on, and I think that's a great thing. Some of that progress of the maturity that is shown, and I think a lot of that is reflected in the music as well, because to me, this movie doesn't have as much of those highs in the music. You know what I mean? Like those like the first ones. In Frozen 1, they had these great jingles, these great songs that really great and upbeat. And I think even the music here in this movie in Frozen 2 has matured along with its audience as well. And I think that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing. And I really did quite enjoy this movie. And again, like I said, those the songs though, they don't seem as they don't have that same amount of wonderment and amazement to them. They're not as big. They don't stand out. Like none of the songs really have that huge standout thing to me. Like a Let It Go had. You know what I mean? Like Let It Go. Like you hear that song, you're like, man, that song was so huge, and it's a great song. It's got the beat, it's got the tempo. It makes you tap your foot. It makes you want to sing along to it. Just like what was the other song where God, what was his name? Hans and Anna were singing together. Love is an open door. Like that song is so great. And before on Thursday evening when we went to go see it. Before that, we watched the first one together. Me and my kids did, and then we went and we watched the movie. And I'm just like, I was sitting there, kind of a ball of emotions. Like, man, I remember this movie when it came out. Man, my babies, they were so little. We used to sing these songs together. I had this emotional attachment to them. But the songs were really good, and they had that feeling. Like I said, this movie, I think it matured with its audience through the songs and even through the storytelling. And I gotta say, I think this movie was really good. Now, if you haven't seen Frozen 2 yet, one thing I definitely want to tell you is make sure that you stay till the end of the credits. There is a bonus scene after the credits. And the bonus scene, I'm not really for sure about it. It's something I've got to go back and watch, and I'll probably include in my review. Is that there is the ending scene ties into something else that they did in one of their other little like tie-in shows, or one of their little shorts or something that can probably be found on Disney Plus or something like that, or maybe one of the DVDs as well. There is a little bonus scene there at the very end that was pretty funny. And at the very beginning of basically at the beginning of this movie, we open up with the daughters, Elsa and Anna. They're there in Arendelle. They're there at their castle playing in the family castle. And this is before Arendelle, was all closed out. Closed the castle and shut everybody out. They're there playing with each other. They have their little snowmen, their little snow figures, and there is actually a little Easter egg. There's a little Big Hero 6. There's a little Baymax inside that makes a little cameo in Frozen 2 at the very beginning. Now that kind of made me wonder if you know how Disney, they always say that, like, in a lot of their movies they put little Easter eggs in there for future films that are going to be coming out. It makes me wonder if they are working on a Big Hero 6 too, considering that Baymax actually there was a little Easter egg in there with Baymax as they were sitting there at the very beginning playing with their little snow dolls. He was one of the little snow dolls that they had in there. So if you go in and watch that, you're going to want to make sure you watch it. It's probably in like the first 2 minutes of the movie. Probably in like the first 2 minutes. They had some pretty cool stuff in there. And yeah, I mean, and then we see, like her parents sit down, as they're playing. The kids are, overly active, they're trying to get them down to sleep, and their mother ends up telling them, singing them this, lullaby to get them to sleep. And they go to sleep, and just a whole bunch of things happen. Their parents end up going on the on the hunt. Their parents die, while they're supposedly headed north to be taking care of this. Just yeah, everything that happened in part one. But I thought it was again, I thought this movie was pretty good. I thought it was pretty good. And let's see what else. Like, to me, like, Olaf I think was funnier in this movie, though the song that he did in this one I didn't like as much as the song that he did in the first one. But the song he does in here is very funny. Does a song, and you can download. The soundtrack's available now. There's a song where he's talking about how he'll understand things when he's older, and it's pretty funny, especially at the part in the movie where it happens. But the song in itself was pretty good too. And altogether, this movie, I thought it was good. It just doesn't have that same sense of wonderment and amazement that the first one had. But again, if you ask me, I don't think there's any sequel out there that's really going to. Now, that's not to say that some sequels aren't better than the first ones, because there's a few movies out there where the second movie is actually better than the first one. But this one, um, like I said, this one just is it's more of a mature step forward. I guess a progressive step of maturity forward in the Frozen franchise. And I don't know that this one doesn't seem like they ended it on a note where there could be a sequel. Now, getting into this one, this movie almost seems like they had a sequel planned when they made the first movie. And to me, that the one bad thing I think about that is if you had a sequel planned, I mean, you should have let us know in the first movie for one, but two, in that case, it seems like you told an incomplete story. And that's ultimately the downside about any real sequel is, if you needed this next movie, you told an incomplete story, which, arguments could easily be made like about the Matrix. Because to me, the Matrix, you get Matrix, God, what was it? I can't remember. Matrix Reloaded and Matrix Revolutions. I love those movies. I think those are great movies. A lot of people don't like them and say, it would have been just fine with just the first movie. And that is very, very true. They wrapped everything up pretty much in a nice little bow at the end of the first movie. It could have been a standalone movie. But they did also leave it in a way where it could have sequels. And again, these things are all debatable depending on how you feel. So, uh, but to me, again, I thought this was a good natural progression to the story. Now, again, the story here in Frozen 2, I could easily point out a bunch of things about it that if you caught the Trailer Park Live on Friday, Myrtle had some things to say about it, and to me, I don't think that Myrtle's wrong. There are definitely some. I don't know. To me, it seemed like there's some sort of like political allegories out there that could be made. And I'm not saying that that's what they purposefully did, but I think it's a little bit there. There's a little bit there that could be said. Altogether, it was a good movie though, and I think it just kind of matured with its audience, especially like I said in the singing and just everything and the situation set up here. One thing I didn't like about the movie was Kristoff and his character in the movie. We all know he's kind of a goofy guy, and stuff like that. Fumbles over his words and stuff, but wrestles with comfortability, I guess, even with loved ones. I mean, like just in the way he approaches things. In this one right here, it seemed like they took it a little bit, just a slight bit over the top with his bumbling foolishness, or just like his bumbling. How would you say? Not even being a moron, but being moronic. Maybe I don't know. I don't know how to explain that, but he just comes off as kind of a fool at a couple of parts, where he's fumbling with his words and stuff as he's trying to propose to Anna. And then he does this song in the movie as well. This kind of, it's like this like rock ballad kind of song, and to me, I just thought it didn't come off right. It didn't come off good, but it had just enough cheesiness in it that kind of made me chuckle at the same time. So I don't know. Maybe they just struck the right amount of balance in the song to get me to be like, ugh, yeah, come on, man, really? And I think they've put a little bit of that cheesiness in there. And to me, I think that's one of the things is like, especially in a good movie is, if you're gonna do certain things, you gotta have a certain amount of cheesiness in it. You gotta have some fun with it. And to me, I think that's what they did throughout this movie a lot. Was they had a lot of fun in writing this movie and making this movie, just as much as they did the first one. Of course, what they're talking about here has a little bit more serious kind of implications in it, and I think that's where there's going to be, I don't know, if anybody sees it how I did, there's probably going to be some divided talk out there amongst and about this film. But again, I thought it was pretty good. So let's see what everybody has to say here. Aggressively relaxing says COPPA gives YouTube the ability to get rid of any channels that becomes a problem for them. I don't think that's necessarily true. I don't think that that's necessarily true. I mean, YouTube will do that anyway. I mean, they completely have that right to get rid of any channel anyway that they want that's becoming a problem. Really, Rosetta says, "Lawyer speak." I know. I used to work in a government office, filing and writing illegal documents, and they phrase the new terms of service and COPPA terms vaguely, even under that standard, which concerns me. Right. And again, when it comes to those kinds of things, they do that. So then it's open to interpretation. You know what I mean? Open to interpretation. That's ultimately not ever good because, we know who's usually interpreting it. And again, that's the good thing about court is where you can go and state and make your case. That's definitely the good thing about that. Um, Tommy says, not everyone can talk plainly. I do, and some people hate me for it. Right, yeah. I mean, and that's the thing is like, when it comes to lawyer speak and stuff like that, they don't. They leave it open for those reasons. Rosetta says, exactly. I want simple terms, even for legal, because this 52K fine, WTF, most people don't make that in a year, and the terms for what they might fine us are intentionally value. Well, one of the things I heard was that the 52K fine it can be up to that. Like it's like somewhat, I guess somewhat the fine is going to be based on how much you've made off of like these audiences and these things like that. There's a whole lot of ins and outs to it. Again, I'm not going to confess to know anything about it. But I think obviously that's a lot of money. And I don't think everybody's going to be slapped with that fine. It could be very well that you have to go to a court of arbitration or maybe just a court altogether and have these things heard out, and maybe they'll decide what a logical course of action could be. Like I doubt. I mean, unless you're doing something harmful in your videos, like for kids against to kids audiences, I think for the most part, a lot of things can be ruled as kind of like no harm, no foul, but you need to learn your lesson here going forward, and you might still face some fines for it. Um, Coffee Breath says the fines are based on channel income. Yeah, okay, yeah. See, and there you go, right there. Um, let's see. Rosetta Allen says, but it's vague so they can manipulate it. I'm not trying to say it was written to be insidious, but government is insidious and makes benign things ridiculous over time. Exactly, and that's why like again, we're not here to get into politics or anything like that, but I do feel that there's already far too many laws out there for ridiculous things too. You know what I mean? People just need to learn to govern themselves ultimately. You know what I mean? It's not too hard to be a decent person. You know what I mean? It's not too hard to be a decent person. um so yeah. Let's see. Rosetta Allen says, I hate Disney, but I give Frozen credit. It called out the love at first sight crap that is promoted in this culture that is so dangerous with abusers. Right, yeah, yeah. That is very true. That is very true. It did, and that's the thing. That's one of the things I like about it is because, it's got some of those things on those levels, and that's what I like about Frozen Two is, the messages in there kind of matured with the audience who would have exactly done exactly what you talk about, like the love at first sight thing. Like, sure, there are people you meet out there who are not necessarily snakes in the grass, but who don't appear who they really are, and people that have ulterior motives and things like that. That's one of the things I definitely like about it, and I think this movie does something exactly in that same kind of vein too, in accepting others for who they are, and being able to hear others out. You know what I mean? Being able to speak and understand what other people are saying, and not just being blinded by our how would you say, just our contempt for somebody else. And like I said, being able to, I don't know, understand where another people is coming from, or maybe just wanting to hear somebody else out over some misunderstandings altogether. Um, Let's see. Aggressively relaxing says, I think it's great. A little kid gets on searches Star Wars history and instead gets exposed to people trying to monetize negativity. Right. And again, I think that there is I hear what you're saying there. I just don't know that there's a lot of those channels who will get pushed into those kinds of searches. Now, some certainly will, but I think there's, just by the audience who's clicking on them and the way it goes into the algorithm, I don't think that there's going to be a whole lot of that coming up. However, I have seen where there are different things being suggested, even in like when I'm watching videos on YouTube that come up in suggested videos. I'm like, why are these video suggestions coming up? This is just wrong. So certainly, I mean, but the algorithm isn't perfect. Now the thing is for one, I mean, little kids. I mean, if there's little kids getting on YouTube, I mean, parents should be overseeing their children and what they're searching anyway. It's not the government's job, it's not YouTube's job or anything like that to keep an eye on your children. That's just not the case. It's just not the case, and I will argue that until the day I die. It's not up to the government. It's not up to YouTube. It's not up to the police. It's not up to the YouTube algorithm or anything that to police what your children are watching online. It's just not. Parents, be parents. That's ultimately what it takes. That's ultimately what it takes. Don't just hand your kids the device and say, "Here, go on and do whatever you want to do." That's just not the way the world works. You don't just open your front door and let your kids just play outside and say, "Just don't worry about anything," and not teach them about looking across the street or keeping an eye out for strangers or anything like that. You just don't do it. You know what I mean? You don't just go to Disneyland with your kids and just say, go do whatever you want, kids. You don't have cell phones or anything like that, but just go. People, most kids don't get abducted from here. Just go along and do whatever. It's all good. We'll meet up at some point. You just don't do that, okay? But that's what people do with their tablets and with things online. They do that like that's safe. There's arguably more people on YouTube that want to do harm to your kids than there is somebody at Disneyland trying to abduct your kids or do something bad to your kids while you're there. Just plain and simple, there is. So, if anything, parents should be more involved in what their kids are viewing and watching on YouTube. That's ultimately what it comes down to for me. Nobody is here to monitor your kids online. That's a parent's job. It's not the government's job. It's not anybody else's job. It's the parent's job. That's the one thing why I say that it's a bad thing. Now, as far as the rest of the statement, I'm getting exposed to and monetizing negativity. Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you there. There's plenty of those channels out there, but again, most of these people, if they come across those feeds, most of these people aren't aiming it at children either. They're not trying to misrepresent it as being for children in any way, shape, or form that I have noticed. Maverick Pilgrim says, I took my wife and 4 daughters to see it on Friday. My second was all in, super excited. Dressed up as Elsa and took her hair out of the braid after the movie like Elsa. I think she'll be a cosplayer. Awesome, man. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, and yeah, that's awesome that they dressed up and they wanted to be into it and all that kinds of stuff. I'm telling you, like, when I watched the first one again on Friday, like, I was kind of like a ball of emotions thinking about all the years that I spent with my daughters, and God, it was probably a good year or so that it was really heavily into Elsa and Anna and just all those times. I miss those times, man. Like, I'm pretty emotionally attached to that movie in that way because I have a lot of fond memories of it, and that's good. That's great, and again, I think this is a good. The one thing I like about Frozen is it got that good sister dynamic in it just throughout. And then how they deal with each other, how they deal with the outside world, how they deal with strangers, how they're dealing just with others out there in the world. I really do like it. Um, let's see. Um, let's see. Maverick also says the new Kristoff song had me cracking up in the theater. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, for me, like, some of us just kind of like, I don't know, but it's got just enough cheesiness that it had me laughing at the same time. But at the same time, I was kind of like, man, come on, Kristoff, you need to sack up a little bit, man. Come on, stop being such a weenie. Stop being such a weenie. But that ultimately comes down to the troll song in the first movie, or not the troll song, but the little. I guess, were they trolls? The little rock troll people. Um, is it the goofy way he walks, or is it the funny way he walks, or the goofy way he talks, or you know what I'm talking about? That song. He's a bit of a fixer upper. He's a bit of a fixer upper. But yeah, I mean, like I said, to me, I was just kind of like, oh, really? They didn't have to do that, but it wasn't bad. It had just enough cheesiness in it that it made me want to laugh. Mads Mama Bear says, what I want to know, does Marshmallow make an appearance? Marshmallow? Marshmallow? Not that I know of. Who's Marshmallow? Um, Aggressively relaxing says, Wasabi cracked time travel. What? Rosetta Allen says, Matrix had issues with the last movie losing sight with the original concept because of actors lost and other issues. I like the original ideas more, but I don't hate the sequels either. Yeah, to me, like, for me, like when it comes to the Matrix, I like all of them. There are elements of the sequels that I don't like, but overall, I really like the Matrix altogether. Like, I'm one of those people that, like I was all in, through the Matrix trilogy. I love the Matrix and the trilogy, just everything. Like, I'm pretty psyched that they're coming out with a new one. Maverick Pilgrim says Iron Man 2 is superior to Iron Man. Case and point. Ooh, yeah. I'm gonna have to kind of disagree with you there. But I mean, Iron Man, but also Iron Man 2 is just kind of Iron Man 1 is like it set the standard for. I mean, it's basically what launched the MCU. So ultimately, most people are gonna hold that one up pretty high. Iron Man 2, I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I actually enjoy all of the Iron Man movies, even Iron Man 3. It seems like so many people hate on Iron Man 2 and 3. Now, for me, I think Iron Man 2 just has some of the problems just in some of the writing, and luckily, and especially like with the villain. Luckily, though, Sam Rockwell was there just to kind of balance out some of those things because I think his character brought a lot of weight to the movie that I thought was much needed in what that movie is. But I like Iron Man 2, so I can't argue with now it being superior to Iron Man. I don't know. I'll have to disagree with that one. Because again, I like the first Iron Man, but don't get me wrong, I do like Iron Man 2 as well. Glitter and duct tape says good morning to you, glitter and duct tape. I did get that. I did get that link that you sent me on Instagram. Thank you for that. I'm gonna have to go and check that out. Rosetta says that's why I love Star Trek OS and the '60s campy works with the cerebral concepts. Right, right. Yeah, definitely, definitely. I hear you there. Um, Rosetta says, and you can't monetize to adult only under 12. They want the world to cater to high school brats. I must have missed. Rosetta says a lot of people can't afford or don't have the days to take off work to keep fighting court cases. There is so much issue here. Oh yeah, yeah, agreed. Yeah, yeah. Tommy says, I hear some channels were hit for using trigger words like fun. Not sure what to make of that. Yeah, I haven't really looked that much into it. Attraction at first sight is real, but true love is more than appearance. Love shouldn't be rushed. Exactly. Oh yeah, totally, totally. I'm True Skills. What is up? Good morning to you. Star Wars Santa says, good discussion this morning. The sky isn't falling all the time. Be a decent person. Be honest. Do good. You'll be fine, and you just might make the world a little better place. I completely agree with you there, Star Wars Santa. Um, yeah, I mean, a lot of people, and that's the one thing, there's always, some doomsdayers out there, it's the end of the world. Ah. Yeah, it should be all good. It'll be all good. It will be all good. Um, Rosetta says, I'm extremely cynical, Star Wars Santa. Unfortunately, it's my own experiences, or as husband says, pessimistically optimistic. Yeah, no, and I totally hear you. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I mean, we should always be a little bit leery. We should always be suspecting when it comes to these kinds of things out there, because, like I said, when you get into some of these things, it's like done in lawyer speak. So, like, you don't really know what to make of it. It's because they leave it open to so much interpretation out there that's kind of where, that's where you kind of get into those things. You know what I mean? Um, I am True Skills says, Tommy, yeah, I just hope YouTube doesn't delete my channel. Now, I'm sure you'll be all good. Aggressively Relaxing says, there's no right to YouTube. If you don't like the guardrails set up by the company, you can host your own content. And that's absolutely true, Aggressively Relaxing. That's one thing I always laugh when people are like, oh, F YouTube and all this different stuff and this and that. Like, they shouldn't be making money off of us. They should be thanking us and all this stuff. And it's like, whoa, 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 man. Like, these things, YouTube isn't a right. It's not a right, like it has nothing to do with the government or the Bill of Rights or the Constitution or anything like that. They're a company and they have every right to shut down whoever they want to. I mean, it's their platform. So that's why I think it's always totally funny when I see some of these things out there with a lot of that stuff. And you're absolutely right. I mean, there is no right to YouTube. They're a private company. Um, they are a known company. Now, they're probably publicly traded, and that is where some of that comes in. If they are a publicly traded company, as Google is, then they have a right to, they have an obligation to their investors to make money, to their stockholders to make money. That's ultimately what they have to do, and they will take every safeguard they can to ensure that they continue to make money. They don't make money from me. They make money from the content that I make, that they in turn use to sell their advertisers on. So I totally get that. I totally understand how all that works. Now, again, that of course that relation does have to be somewhat symbiotic with each other. They have to work together with each other, and and I don't expect YouTube or its advertisers to bend over backwards for every content creator or anything like that. Again, it comes down to being able to make content that is viable, that you can put out, that people want to watch and stuff like that. I mean, you can still make the other content out there. You're just not going to make money on it. And think, that's why you can think places like Patreon and Streamlabs and things like that, where people can still support your channel monetarily if they want to, if you're not making ad revenue and things like that. So again, it's not the end of the world, but yeah, exactly, you're right. They have the right to do what they want with their content. It's their platform. Um, Tommy says, I watched cartoons with my daughter when she was growing up because I wanted to know what she liked and what she was watching. Most parents don't want to do that anymore. Exactly. Exactly. They want everyone else to be responsible. 100%, Tommy. 100%. Um, okay, I got to go. Hugs, guys. Well, take it easy, Rosetta. Have a very good rest of your day. Aggressively relaxing says, it's not about parenting other people's kids. When you own a business and you keep getting angry calls from parents, you set up roadblocks to stop that annoying nonsense. Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, again, I think YouTube has done more than enough to cater to that, but ultimately this is on the parents. It's up to the parents to to regulate their children. You send your kids to school and they do bad in school. The school is going to take steps necessary to make sure that your kids are getting along with other kids and stuff like that, but they are not there to parent your children. Parents are there to parent the children. It's up to the parents to take care of their kids and to raise the kids. And now, however, that has to do with, not everybody is fit to be parents. Not everybody is good parents and things like that. But again, it's not up to these companies to be regulated. It's not up to the government to be regulated. It's not up to the government to step in and make sure that you are parenting your children. And we could get into the foster system and all that kinds of stuff, and that's just not what we talk about here. But it's not up to the government to do these things for you. If you have kids, be parents. It's not that hard. My parents did it. I do it with my kids. It's not hard to do. You just got to be active in your kids' lives. That's all you got to do. You just got to be aware of what they're doing. That's all it is. It's not. That's all it is. Star Wars Santa says, fair enough. You shouldn't be naive about things either. Sometimes you even need to be a little over defensive and protective due to the liturgical nature of society today. Oh yeah, completely agreed. Agreed. Um, let's see. Star Wars Santa says, I have to carry $4 million in personal insurance just in case someone accuses me of doing something as Santa. Right, right. Yeah, that's ridiculous. Um, Mads Mama Bear says, Marshmallow is the angry snow monster. Oh yes, yes. Okay, yeah. The one that was, yeah. Marshmallow is in there then. With the little kids, and that's gonna be your bonus scene. How that ties in, because they were given birth through somebody's tears or something, if I remember correctly, if my kids told me right. But yeah, yeah, I believe, if I'm not wrong, I believe Marshmallow is the one that is in that bonus scene at the very end of the credits. Star Wars Santa says, I have to be extra careful about where my hands are in pictures, and have to be very careful about what I say to kids, because some parents want to sue over everything. Absolutely, absolutely. Guaranteed you, like 100%. I'm with you there. Aggressively relaxing says, at Tommy, I'm still upset at the first leader of human caveman tribe who demanded OG's kids quit using the bathroom in the cave. Aggressively relaxed. You just crack me up, brother. You crack me up, man. Chip Zdarsky, you're just a great writer and you make me laugh. I'm on to you, Chip. Eric Rigsby says, just watched Iron Man 2 last night and Iron Man 1 on Friday. I'm running the MCU gauntlet with my 8 and 10-year-old kids for the first time. Nice, nice. Yeah, man. You know what? The MCU, man, they've got a lot of great movies. I really like pretty much all of the movies that they've put out. I mean, of course, some aren't as good as others. No studio is ever going to put out nothing but great content. You know what I mean? But I think for the most part, man, all the MCU movies are very high quality, and they do a very good job with making the movies and presenting them. Now, there are other things out there I could nitpick at that us, comic geeks, and especially ones who are really into a lot of the comic lore, will have problems with. But altogether, I think they've MCU has done really great, and man, you're gonna have some fun watching those movies with your kids, man. Yeah, especially at 8 and 10 years old, it's like the perfect age, man. Perfect. That's awesome. Tommy says, only problem I have with YouTube is their inability to explain things or help with issues. Content creators make content creators make YouTube money, fine. They take most of it, cool, but at least help. Yeah, and again, I think that comes to they're really just out to watch their backs, and ultimately we are the ones responsible for our content. And I think some of it too is they probably don't have any kind of a clue neither, any more than anybody else does. You know what I mean? It's still, I think it's somewhat the blind leading the blind at this point, or the blind leading the people who aren't blind but would like more clarification, and they don't know because they're still somewhat blind. It all has to do with the same thing with like a lot of the social media and stuff going on out there. Like with Martin Scorsese, even as far as like the MCU, just kind of being old timers and being out of touch with stuff. Like you gotta keep up modern. You gotta keep up on these things, with what's trending, with what's cool, with what's not cool, with what you can say, what you can't say, just all these different things. You can't, like, you've always got to be progressive yourself in understanding, keeping up with the world. You can't just be stuck. Thinking that things that you can run your business or your channel or your content or anything like that the same way they used to in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, even 3 years ago. You know what I mean? You got to constantly innovate. I mean, one of the things that the bicycle company that I ride their bikes, Specialized, always used to say, one of the big taglines was, innovate or die. I mean, that's ultimately what it comes down to, really, for the most part. Um, let's see. Maverick Pilgrim says Iron Man sarcasm. Oh man, what did I miss there? What did I miss? I must have missed something with the Iron Man sarcasm. um, oh, okay. You're like, I see what you're saying there. Nerdy Blurb TV, Frozen 2, hype not lived up to, but I was never a fan of the first movie either. And see, like me, I didn't, going into Frozen 2, I didn't really think that there was a whole lot of hype that it was supposed to be better than Frozen, because I don't think there was any way to top Frozen for me. I loved the first movie. I was really invested in the first one, and I still am, I guess you could say. But I think you're right though. I think what hype there was, even on my end, I don't think it lived up to that. But especially after a second viewing, I really do appreciate this movie for what it is. Again, it's no Frozen 1 or anything like that, but I do think the movie was good. And like I said, for me, the biggest thing, my biggest takeaway from this movie is that this movie showed a maturity, like it matured with its audience, its core audience, who was there for the first one and who have grown up with that movie. Case in point, like my daughters. I think this movie really progressed in a way and matured with them, I guess you could say, in a sort of weird way. But altogether, I really did like the movie. And Nerdy Blurb, we're gonna get together and talk about that one of these days, dude. We're going to soon. We got to find a day to do that. Maybe this. Ooh, I don't know if I can do it this coming weekend. Maybe we can. We'll see. Because I'm doing my 1 year live stream this Saturday, which I probably shouldn't do because LB over at the Lonely Banter did a whole video talking about me and how I shouldn't be doing celebration streams. I know he was talking about me. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna private message Mad Squirrel to see if LB was talking about me in that whole throughout that whole video that he was talking about it. I feel really bad and I feel really down. He was throwing shade at me. I know he was. I know how he is. um, let's see. Maverick Pilgrim says, I really did like Iron Man 3 though. Me too. Like I like Iron Man 3. To me, I think I like Iron Man 3 more than I like Iron Man 2. Now, is it the best Iron Man out there? No, I don't think it is, but a lot of people didn't like the whole Mandarin thing and all that kind of stuff. I thought it was kind of funny. I thought it was pretty good. And the fact that they used basically like somebody as cover, they had a front man of who the Mandarin was. I thought that was great. I think that's something good. I mean, why wouldn't the Mandarin be smart enough to have people out there that are impersonating him, or somebody else out there willing to take the fall? I mean, I think that's what somebody who is like a Mandarin is supposed to be would do. They would have somebody out there like oh yeah, like like this isn't me. This is just some clown who's willing to take the fall for me, who thinks they're all that. And hey, man, I will happily let somebody do that if that's what they want. You know what I mean? But I don't know. That's just me. But anyway, guys, been going here for about an hour. Guys, again, thank you all so much for being here. I do want to say thank you all so much to every single one of my Patreon supporters. If you'd like to support the channel, anyway, there are some links down in the description where you can go and you can send a one-time donation via Streamlabs. You can, go add to the tip jar, or you can even become a monthly Patreon supporter, again, and support the channel here. I do greatly appreciate all of these wonderful people who have chosen to support the channel in that way. I thank you all so very much for every single thing and every single one of you. Again, guys, thank you all so much for being here, and checking out my videos and being here and just having fun and interacting with me as I go through and I talk about movies and comic books and all kinds of things. I did drop a few comic book reviews last night. I just dropped one this morning, and I've got several others shot and ready to go. I do have some other comic book reviews that I'm going to be doing. I got some advanced copies of some books that are going to be releasing this week at your local comic book shop, so look forward to those coming out tomorrow. What I have is I've got Maul issue number 4 that I'm going to have a review on, as well as the Plot issue number 3 that I got as well. I got some advanced copies to do reviews on those, so those should be dropping tomorrow, so you can know if you might want to pick it up on your as part of your Wednesday comic book pull list. If you haven't been keeping up with the Plot, very good book. It's a horror title on Vault Comics. I think if you're into horror titles, you might want to read this one. Very, very good book. And the Maul, or I guess it's just Maul. It's not The Maul, because there's another title out there called The Maul, but it's just Maul. Is basically a post-apocalyptic tale in which these people have basically holed up in a shopping mall, and it is now like gang territory. So imagine say Mallrats meets the Warriors. Yeah, something like that. Very good, or maybe a Clockwork Orange, something like that. A very good title. I've really enjoyed it, and again, that one's on Vault Comics as well, and I've enjoyed a lot of content out of Vault Comics. So again, thank you all so much for tuning in to the Second Street Marvel today. If you haven't already, please make sure you're subscribed, click the little bell and all of that good stuff. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you don't like it, feel free to give it a thumbs down. It's all good. I don't take it personal. But while you're at it, make sure that you share it with a friend and invite them to come hang out with us here on the Second Street Marvel. You all have a very good day. Have a great rest of your week. Have a happy Thanksgiving if I don't see you until then. And we'll see you all in the next video. Later.